over the last 2 years, even though I still call attention to media bias, I worry about it less and less. You think about the way that you get news now. You have your RSS feed reader, where you get to subscribe. You choose which blogs are providing you the most substantive information or the most cutting-edge analysis. You go on Twitter, and you don't need to rely on the Associated Press to tell you breaking news anymore. You don't need to subscribe even to Roll Call or The Hill to figure out what's going on the House floor or the Senate floor, because somebody is watching it on C-SPAN and live tweeting it or live blogging it. It's completely revolutionary. And I've, of course, welcomed it. And I still have my one foot in old media. I've been writing a syndicated newspaper column since 1999. I had started my first newspaper job in 1992. And I think there's always going to be a part of me that feels like an ink-stained wretch. But now I'm more of a bit-stained wretch, bite-stained wretch. I don't know what it is. And of course, you've got blogs like Newsbusters, which is far more influential than Media Matters would ever thinks it will be. So what? Keith Olbermann will read a Media Matters news release. It's like the tree falling in the forest. I mean, who cares? Who cares? But there are still instances, of course, in the New York Times where the sins of omission are so blatant and so damning that, yes, we need to speak out in revolt. And you mentioned the Acorn thing especially, but this young generation of fearless investigative journalists with their cameras and their great editing skills, who needs 2020? Who needs 60 minutes? I mean, citizen journalism has really exploded. And of course they fear it, and there's always threats of FCC regulation and the Orwellian fairness doctrine. Let them try. Let them try, because they'll get the same response that Barack Obama has gotten to his power grabs. Oh, hell no, you don't. Yes. Well, this was one of the great Reagan goals. Right? Abolish the education department. It used to be part of the mainstream of the Republican Party platform. And then you had all of these rhinos try and take over the party and tell us that we were whack jobs for even mentioning it. Name any agency and say you want to cut. And it's like, oh, no, you can't say that. Shh. Right? And so I think it's going to take a lot of screaming and shouting and letting these people know this is a goal. Instead, we got a Bush-led massive expansion of federal spending and federal encroachment under one of those left-wing slogans, no child left behind. Who would have imagined that it was a Republican majority that would give us this? I know I'm sure he has rolled over many times in his grave, but what must Reagan have done? So this is why we need a new guard, new fresh blood. And Michelle Bachmann is part of that class, leading the way. I'll tell you who we don't need. And you know me, I name names. You can't hear anything. But let me tell you about a Republican who went on tour this past year with Al Sharpton and Arnie Duncan. Pop quiz. Does anyone know who it was? Newt Gingrich. Look it up on my blog, because I was about the only one who called attention to the fact that Newt Gingrich went on a circus clown tour with Al Sharpton to promote Barack Obama's education agenda. And then he turned around and went to the Southern Leadership Conference to tell us that Barack Obama was the biggest threat to America and the socialists that we can't stand. What were you doing on tour with his education secretary? What are you doing on a couch with Nancy Pelosi promoting Al Gore's global warming agenda? What are you doing encouraging the Republican Party to spend money to try and get someone like Dee Dee Scarlett-Pava, a big labor, acorn-loving, abortion rights radical, under the guise of being a conservative Republican? Somebody asked me if we are more in danger from internal threats or external threats. And I quoted the great historian Arnold Toynbee, who said, "Civilizations die by suicide, not by murder." And the same is true of the conservative movement and the Republican Party. Let's do one more. Ladies, is that okay? Yeah.
I watched a DVD that the John Birch Society put out about the real Newt Gingrich. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-hmm.
It talked about Newt Gingrich being a dangerous progressive, actually a globalist. And I remember when I watched it, I thought, I didn't even share with any of my friends because I thought maybe they think I'm just a whack job on the conspiracy theorist. And I'm pretty radical, and my friends know that, but I mean, I thought this is good, this is really pushing it. But what you just said brought it home, and I feel almost guilty now because I've been more afraid of the progressives inside the Republican Party than I am of the liberals, because we know who they are. And I think it really is time that you start asking some really hard questions. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know how I feel about it. You know, I just said it. And I think that it's especially important. You can be inside the Beltway, but not be of the Beltway. And I think that's very important that when we choose at the ballot box, that we pick people who are going to remember where they came from.